The text came in at 7:43 p.m., just as I was replacing the carburetor on my '98 Ford pickup. "Traffic is crazy tonight, baby. Be home late again. Love you." I wiped grease off my hands and typed back, "Or is Michael keeping you busy? Is he better than me in bed too?" My phone went silent for exactly 17 minutes. Then came the frantic callback. "What the hell does that mean, Jake? Are you accusing me of something?" "Just asking, Sabrina. Simple question." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'd been married to Sabrina Walsh for 12 years. She was a corporate lawyer at Henderson and Associates downtown, the kind of woman who wore power suits and talked about synergy at dinner parties. I was Jake Morrison, a 42-year-old handyman who fixed things for a living. We lived in Millfield, Ohio, one of those Rust Belt cities where half the factories had closed and the other half were hanging on by a thread. 20 minutes later, I heard her BMW pull into our driveway. I was still in the garage, pretending to work on the truck, but really just listening. She came through the side door carrying 2 suitcases and a garment bag. "Going somewhere?" I asked, not looking up from the engine. "Jake, we need to talk." There she was, face white as fresh snow, designer heels clicking on the concrete floor, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else in the world. Her auburn hair was perfectly styled, makeup flawless, despite whatever emotional storm was brewing inside her head. "I'm listening," I said, finally turning around. "But first, let me play you something interesting." I pulled out my phone and hit play on an audio file. Her voice filled the garage, crystal clear. "I wish I could stay all night with you, Michael. Jake's working late again anyway. He never pays attention to me anymore." Then came Michael's voice. "When are you going to tell him about us? I'm tired of sneaking around." "Soon. I just need to secure some assets first. Make sure I don't lose everything in the divorce." Sabrina's face went from white to green. "You recorded me? You actually recorded me?" "Your smartwatch uploads to our family cloud account, sweetheart. Did you forget about that little feature? Every conversation, every location, every heartbeat during your afternoon meetings with Michael Patterson from your office." She dropped the suitcases. "Jake, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you've been planning to divorce me for 4 months while screwing your coworker? How you've been moving money into accounts I can't access? How you told him I was just some blue-collar loser who got lucky?" I walked over to my workbench and picked up a manila folder. "See, the thing about being married to a lawyer is you learn to document everything. GPS data from your car, credit card receipts from that little hotel on Maple Street, photos of you two having lunch at Romano's every Tuesday for the past 3 months. You had me followed. I followed the evidence, Sabrina, just like you taught me when you were studying for the bar exam, remember? Facts don't lie, Jake. People do." I opened the folder and spread out printed screenshots, receipts, and photos across the workbench. "Michael's married too, isn't he? 2 kids. Wife named Lisa. I wonder how she'd feel about these pictures." Sabrina lunged for the folder, but I was faster. "You can't do this to me, Jake. It'll ruin my career." "Your career?" I laughed, and it came out darker than I intended. "You mean the career you built while I supported you through law school? The career that's apparently too good for a blue-collar loser like me?" I pulled out my phone again. I already called Lisa Patterson, played her the audio. She was very interested. Also sent copies to your HR department. Turns out Henderson and Associates has a strict policy about workplace relationships, especially when one party is married to someone else. The color drained completely from her face. "You didn't." "I did. Oh, and I canceled all the credit cards, closed the joint checking account, and had the locks changed on the house. Your stuff is packed and waiting by the front door." "You can't just throw me out. I have rights." "You have the right to find somewhere else to live. Might I suggest Michael's place? Oh wait, his wife probably changed those locks too." My phone rang. Michael Patterson's name flashed on the screen. I answered on speaker. Morrison, what did you do? Hey there, Michael. Just sharing some family photos with your wife. She seemed really interested in that shot of you and Sabrina coming out of the Riverside Motel last Thursday. You're insane. I'm calling the police. For what? Showing your wife pictures of her husband cheating? That's not illegal, buddy. But adultery might affect your divorce settlement. Lisa's already called a lawyer. I hung up and looked at Sabrina. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Jake, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake. No, you made a choice. Every day for 4 months, you chose him over me. You chose to lie, to cheat, to plan my destruction. Now you get to live with the consequences. I handed her the car keys. Your lawyer has all the documentation. Maggie Chen at Morrison and Associates. Yes, I hired your biggest competitor. She's very thorough. Turns out when you move marital assets without disclosure, it's considered dissipation. You might want to look that up. Sabrina stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. What happened to you? You used to be kind. I used to be stupid. There's a difference. She picked up her suitcases with shaking hands. The neighbors are going to talk. Let them talk. At least they'll be telling the truth for once. As she walked toward the door, I called out, "Oh, and Sabrina? Tell Michael I said congratulations. He won the prize, a lying, cheating woman who'll do the same thing to him eventually." The door slammed behind her. I stood alone in my garage, surrounded by tools and the smell of motor oil, listening to her BMW drive away into the night. My daughter Emma came home an hour later. She was 17, a senior at Millfield High, and she took one look at me and knew something had changed. "Where's Mom?" "Gone." "Gone where?" "Gone to live with her boyfriend." Emma's face went through the same color changes as her mother's. "What are you talking about?" I showed her the evidence. All of it. Emma was old enough to understand what adultery meant, old enough to see the financial planning that had gone into her mother's exit strategy. "You're lying," she said, but her voice was weak. "I wish I was, kiddo. I really wish I was." She ran upstairs and slammed her bedroom door. I heard her on the phone, probably calling Sabrina, probably hearing the truth confirmed. An hour later, she came back down with red eyes and a suitcase of her own. "I'm staying at Aunt Jennifer's for a while." Jennifer was Sabrina's sister, a woman who'd never liked me and never bothered to hide it. "That's fine, Emma. But you should know. I'm not paying for private school anymore, and I'm not paying for college either. That money was in the accounts your mother emptied." "You're punishing me for what Mom did?" "I'm broke, Emma. Your mother made sure of that. You want someone to blame? Call her." After Emma left, I sat in my kitchen drinking a beer and staring at the wall. The house felt different already. Emptier, but also cleaner somehow, like an infection had been removed. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Red Murphy, who owned Murphy's boxing gym downtown. "Heard about Sabrina. You okay?" I typed back, "Never better." But I was lying. I wasn't okay. I was angry, angrier than I'd ever been in my life. And I was just getting started. Red Murphy was 63 years old, built like a fire hydrant, and had been running Murphy's boxing gym since before I was born. He'd seen 3 wives, 2 bankruptcies, and more bar fights than most people see movies. When I walked into his gym the next morning, he took one look at me and pointed toward the heavy bag. "Work it out first, then we'll talk." I spent an hour hitting that bag until my knuckles bled through the wraps. Red watched from behind the counter, occasionally shouting corrections. "Keep your guard up. Rotate those hips. Stop trying to kill the damn thing." When I was done, he tossed me a towel and 2 beers. It was 10 a.m., but Red had his own rules about drinking. "So she's really gone?" "As gone as my bank account." "And you got proof of everything?" I pulled out my phone and played him some of the audio. Red listened with the expression of a man who'd heard every possible variation of human stupidity. "Well," he said when it was over, "she's dumber than I thought, and that's saying something. The whole town's talking about it already. Mrs. Greeley from next door asked me this morning if I was holding up okay. Like Sabrina died instead of just showing her true colors. Red cracked open his beer. People love drama, especially when it ain't theirs. What's your next move? I don't know. Maggie Chen says the divorce will take 6 months minimum. Sabrina's going to fight everything. That's not what I meant. Red gave me a look I'd seen before, usually right before he told someone to get out of his gym. You planning to just sit there and take it? Let her control the story? What else can I do? You can remind people who the real victim is here, and you can make sure she pays for what she's done. That afternoon, I got a call from my boss at Morrison Construction. Dave Morrison, no relation despite the name, had been employing me for 8 years. He was a good guy, fair employer, paid on time. Jake, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be straight with me. Shoot. Did you really stalk your wife? Because I got a call from someone saying you hired a private investigator, put tracking devices on her car, the whole 9 yards. I felt my jaw clench. Who told you that? Does it matter? Is it true? No, Dave. It's not true. I used the GPS feature on our family phone plan and listened to audio from her smartwatch that was backing up to our shared cloud account. All legal. All stuff she gave me access to when we set up the accounts. Okay, good. Because if you were stalking people, I'd have to let you go. Can't have that kind of liability. After I hung up, I realized what was happening. Sabrina and Michael were trying to control the narrative, painting me as the crazy, obsessive husband who couldn't handle his wife's success. It was smart, actually. Make me the villain so no one would look too closely at what they'd done. But two could play that game. I drove downtown to Henderson and Associates. It was a glass tower in what used to be the nice part of Millfield, back when there was a nice part. I parked across the street and waited. At 5:30 p.m., employees started streaming out of the building. I recognized several faces from the company Christmas parties Sabrina used to drag me to. At 5:45, I saw Michael Patterson emerge from the elevator. He was exactly what you'd expect from a guy who'd steal another man's wife. 6 feet tall, gym fit, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my truck. He had that confident swagger of a man who'd never faced real consequences for anything. I got out of my truck and walked across the street. Michael! He turned around and his face went pale when he saw me. Jake, what are you doing here? Just thought we should have a conversation, man to man. People were starting to stare. Good. Let them stare. I don't think that's a good idea, Michael said, looking around nervously. Really? Because I think it's a great idea. See, I've been wondering, when exactly did you decide to start screwing my wife? Was it before or after she told you about our financial situation? You need to leave, now. Or what? You'll call security? Go ahead. But first, let me ask you something else. Did Lisa take the kids when she threw you out? Or did she let you say goodbye first? Michael's face flushed red. You destroyed my marriage. Nobody. You destroyed your marriage. I just provided the documentation. I pulled out my phone and held it up so everyone nearby could see the screen. Want to hear the audio again? The part where you two talk about what a loser I am? How I'm too stupid to figure out what's happening? Put that away. Or this part, where Sabrina says she's going to take me for everything in the divorce and you laugh about it? Michael stepped closer, trying to intimidate me with his height. I said, put it away. I looked up at him and smiled. Make me. For a second, I thought he might actually take a swing. His hands were clenched into fists, his jaw was tight, and there was real anger in his eyes. But then he looked around at all the people watching and seemed to remember where he was. You're pathetic, he said instead. Maybe, but I'm not homeless. I hit play on the audio file. Sabrina's voice echoed across the sidewalk. Jake's so clueless. He actually thinks I'm working late. It's almost sad how much he trusts me. The crowd was growing. I recognized a few more faces from Henderson and Associates, including Patricia Williams, the HR director who'd probably already started Michael's termination paperwork. Michael made a grab for my phone, but I was ready for it. I stepped back and let him stumble forward, looking clumsy and desperate in front of his former co-workers. "Careful there, Michael. Wouldn't want you to hurt yourself. You've got enough problems already." "This is harassment." "No, this is public education. See, everyone here works with you. They deserve to know what kind of man you really are." I looked around at the crowd. "How many of you are married? Show of hands." A few people raised their hands, looking confused but curious. "Well, here's some free advice. When your spouse starts working late every night, and their phone is always face down, and they suddenly care a lot about their appearance, they're probably not working late." I hit play on another audio clip. This one was Michael's voice. "When are we going to stop pretending this is just physical? I think I'm falling in love with you, Sabrina." Someone in the crowd gasped. Michael looked like he wanted to disappear into the sidewalk. "And here's my personal favorite," I said, queuing up one more clip. "This is from last week." Sabrina's voice. "I almost feel bad for Jake. He's been such a good husband, and he has no idea what's coming. But I can't stay married to someone so ordinary." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the traffic seemed quieter. Patricia Williams stepped forward. "Michael, I think you should go home." "Patricia, I can explain." "Go home, Michael. We'll discuss this tomorrow." Michael shot me a look of pure hatred, then pushed through the crowd toward the parking garage. I watched him go, feeling satisfied for the first time in weeks. "Show's over, folks," I announced. "Thanks for your attention." As the crowd dispersed, Patricia Williams approached me. She was a woman in her 50s, all business, with gray hair and sharp eyes. "Mr. Morrison, isn't it?" "That's right. I want you to know that Henderson and Associates takes workplace relationships very seriously. What happened here today was unfortunate, but it doesn't change our policies." "I understand. I'm not looking for revenge against your company, Mrs. Williams. Just want people to know the truth." She nodded. "The truth has a way of coming out eventually." "Yes, it does." I drove home feeling better than I had in months, but the feeling didn't last long. When I pulled into my driveway, I found Emma waiting for me on the front porch. She didn't look happy. "Dad, what the hell is wrong with you?" "Nice to see you too, kiddo." "I just got off the phone with Mom. She's crying her eyes out. She says you humiliated her boyfriend in front of his entire office." "Her boyfriend? Is that what we're calling him now?" Emma stood up, hands on her hips. She looked so much like her mother in that moment that it actually hurt. "You're being cruel. This isn't like you. Maybe you don't know me as well as you thought. Mom made a mistake, okay? People make mistakes, but what you're doing is just, it's evil." "Evil?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Emma, your mother spent 4 months planning to destroy my life. She moved our money, consulted lawyers, and lined up her replacement. That's not a mistake. That's a campaign." "So you're going to destroy her life in return?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was 17 years old, on the verge of adulthood, but still young enough to believe in fairy tales and second chances. Part of me wanted to protect that innocence, but a bigger part of me was tired of being the good guy. "Yes," I said. "That's exactly what I'm going to do." Emma stared at me like I was a stranger. "Then you're not the man I thought you were." "No, I'm not. And you know what? I'm okay with that." She got in her car and drove away without another word. I watched her tail lights disappear into the darkness, then went inside my empty house and opened another beer. My phone buzzed with a text from Red. "Heard about your downtown performance. Nice work." I typed back, "Just getting started." And I meant it. They wanted a villain? Fine. I'd give them a villain they'd never forget. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. For 12 years, I'd been Jake Morrison, the good husband, the reliable provider, the guy who fixed things and kept his mouth shut. That Jake was dead. The man who looked back at me from the bathroom mirror was someone new, someone harder, angrier, and a hell of a lot more dangerous. I made coffee and opened my laptop. Time to do some research. Michael Patterson, age 34, graduated from Ohio State with a business degree. Worked at Henderson & Associates for 6 years, specializing in corporate litigation. Married to Lisa Patterson, née Collins, for 8 years. 2 kids, Madison, age 6, and Tyler, age 4. Drove a leased BMW, lived in a mortgage-heavy house in Riverside Heights, and according to his social media, enjoyed craft beer and CrossFit. But that was just the surface. A little deeper digging revealed some interesting details. Michael had been passed over for partner twice in the last 3 years. His billable hours were consistently below the firm average, and according to a legal gossip blog I found, he'd been involved in at least one other workplace relationship that ended badly. I picked up my phone and called Maggie Chen. "Jake, how are you holding up?" "I'm fine, Maggie. Better than fine, actually. I need to ask you something. Is there any way to prove that Sabrina and Michael were planning this affair for longer than I thought?" "What kind of proof are you talking about?" "I don't know. Hotel records, maybe? Credit card statements? I've got everything from the last 4 months, but what if it goes back further? I can subpoena financial records going back 2 years. If there's a pattern of deception, it could affect the asset division significantly." "Do it." "Jake, I have to ask, are you sure you want to go down this road? The more aggressive we get, the more aggressive they'll get in return." I thought about Emma's words from the night before, about being evil, about not being the man she thought I was. Maggie. They declared war on me the day they decided to have an affair. I'm just finally fighting back. All right then. I'll file the motions today. After I hung up, I drove to Murphy's gym. Red was training a kid who couldn't have been more than 16, teaching him how to throw a proper jab. "Keep your elbow down, Tommy. You're telegraphing every punch." When the kid took a break, Red walked over to me. "You look different." "Different how?" "Like you made a decision about something." I told him about my conversation with Maggie, about the financial investigation, about my plan to dig deeper into Michael's past. Red listened without comment, then said, "You know what your problem is, Jake?" "What's that?" "You're still thinking like a good guy. You're using lawyers and legal procedures and playing by rules that don't exist anymore." "What do you mean?" "I mean your wife and her boyfriend aren't playing by those rules. They're fighting dirty, spreading lies about you, trying to make you look like the bad guy. And you're responding with subpoenas and court filings." Red walked over to the heavy bag and gave it a solid punch. "Sometimes you gotta fight fire with fire." "What are you suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying that if someone was spreading lies about me, I might want to spread some truth about them." That afternoon, I got a visit from my neighbor, Mrs. Greeley. She was 82 years old, had lived on Maple Street for 60 years, and knew everyone's business better than they knew it themselves. "Jake, dear, I hope you don't mind me stopping by." "Not at all, Mrs. Greeley. What can I do for you?" "Well, it's about what people are saying, about you and Sabrina." I invited her in and made tea. Mrs. Greeley had been kind to me over the years, always bringing over cookies at Christmas and asking about my work. She deserved the truth. "What are people saying?" "Oh, you know how people talk. They're saying you were controlling, that you wouldn't let Sabrina have her own life, that you tracked her movements and invaded her privacy." I felt my jaw clench. "And what do you think, Mrs. Greeley?" "I think Sabrina Morrison was the luckiest woman in Millfield, and she threw it away for some fancy man in a suit." I showed her some of the evidence, not the audio, that felt too intimate, but the financial records, the hotel receipts, the timeline of deception. Mrs. Greeley studied everything with the careful attention of someone who'd spent decades watching people make the same mistakes over and over. 4 months of planning, she said finally. That's not a mistake, Jake. That's a betrayal. That's what I keep trying to tell people. Well, you tell me what you need, dear. I've got friends all over this town, and we know how to set the record straight. After she left, I realized I had an asset I hadn't considered. The neighborhood network of retired women who had nothing better to do than gossip, and plenty of time to do it in. If I played this right, I could have the truth spread all over Millfield by the end of the week. But first, I had another stop to make. I drove to Emma's high school and waited in the parking lot. When the final bell rang, I spotted her walking toward the student parking lot with a group of friends. I got out of my truck and called her name. Emma! She saw me and said something to her friends, then walked over reluctantly. What are you doing here, Dad? I wanted to talk to you, away from your aunt's house and your mother's influence. I'm not under anyone's influence. I can think for myself. Can you? Because the Emma I raised would have asked to see the evidence before taking sides. The Emma I raised would have cared that her father was being lied about all over town. She crossed her arms. Fine, show me the evidence. I handed her a folder containing printouts of text messages, financial records, and a timeline I'd put together showing exactly how long the affair had been going on. Emma read through everything in silence. I watched her face change as the reality of what her mother had done sank in. She really planned all of this, Emma said finally. Every detail. The affair, the financial planning, the exit strategy. I was never her husband, Emma. I was just a convenience until something better came along. Emma's eyes filled with tears. But why? You were good to her. You supported her through law school. You never complained when she worked late. You even moved to this crappy town because it was better for her career. I don't know why, kiddo. I really don't. Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm sorry, Dad. I should have listened to you. It's okay. You're 17. You're supposed to believe the best about people. What happens now? Now I make sure everyone knows the truth. And I make sure your mother and Michael pay for what they've done. Emma looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, part fear, part admiration. You're really going to destroy them, aren't you? I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Jake Morrison? Who's asking? This is Lisa Patterson, Michael's wife. I think we should meet. We agreed to meet at Romano's, the same restaurant where Sabrina and Michael had been having their Tuesday lunch dates. Lisa was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She was prettier than I'd expected, blonde hair, blue eyes, the kind of woman who probably turned heads when she walked into a room. But there was a hardness around her eyes now, a bitterness that hadn't been there in the family photos on Michael's Facebook page. Thank you for meeting me, she said as I sat down. Thank you for the evidence. Those recordings you sent really helped my lawyer. Lisa smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Michael has no idea I copied everything from his phone before I threw him out. 12 years of marriage, and he thinks I'm too stupid to figure out his passwords. How long did you know? About your wife specifically? 2 months? But I suspected he was cheating for over a year. There were signs. Late nights, unexplained expenses, that smug look he got when he thought he was getting away with something. The waitress came over and we ordered coffee. When she was gone, Lisa leaned forward. I have a proposition for you, Jake. I'm listening. Michael destroyed our marriage, and your wife helped him do it. They're both living in some fantasy world where they're the victims and we're the crazy ex-spouses who just can't let go. That sounds about right. Well, I think it's time to wake them up from that fantasy. I think it's time to show them what real consequences look like. Lisa opened her purse and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Financial records going back 3 years, hotel receipts, restaurant bills, gifts he bought her with our joint credit card, and some other things you might find interesting. I opened the envelope and started reading. What I found made my blood boil. He bought her jewelry, A necklace for her birthday, cost $1,800, told me it was a work dinner. And this hotel bill from last Christmas? He told me he was at a legal conference in Columbus, but as you can see, he wasn't alone. I kept reading. The pattern of deception went back almost 2 years, not 4 months like I'd thought. Sabrina had been lying to me for 2 years. Why are you giving me this? Because I want them to hurt the way we've been hurt, and because I want everyone to know what kind of people they really are. Lisa reached across the table and put her hand on mine. They think they're so smart, Jake. They think they've gotten away with something, but they haven't counted on us working together. What do you have in mind? Lisa's smile was sharp as a knife. I'm thinking it's time for a little public education campaign. We talked for another hour, planning and strategizing. By the time we left the restaurant, I felt like I had an ally for the first time since this whole mess started. As I drove home, my phone rang. It was Red. Jake, you need to get down to the gym, now. What's wrong? Just get down here, and bring that evidence you've been collecting. When I arrived at Murphy's gym, I found Red waiting for me with 3 other men I recognized from the neighborhood. Tom Bradley, who ran the auto parts store, Steve Williams, a retired cop, and Danny Murphy, Red's nephew, who worked construction like me. What's this about? I asked. Red gestured to the other men. We've been talking, Jake, about what's been happening to you, and we don't like it. Tom stepped forward. My wife heard from Patricia Williams at the grocery store. Apparently Sabrina and Michael have been telling people that you're stalking them, that you're dangerous. They're trying to get a restraining order, Steve added. Patricia heard it from her friend who works at the courthouse. A restraining order? On what grounds? They're claiming harassment, saying you've been following them, threatening them, interfering with their work. I felt the anger rising in my chest like a tide. That's complete bullshit. We know that, Red said, but other people might not, which is why we think it's time to go on offense. Danny pulled out his phone. I've got about 3,000 followers on Instagram. Tom's got a popular Facebook page for his store. Steve knows everyone in the police department, and Red's got connections all over town. What are you suggesting? We're suggesting that it's time for the real story to get out, Red said. All of it, every detail, every piece of evidence, every lie they've told. Tom nodded. These people think they can destroy your reputation and get away with it, but this is still a small town, Jake. Reputation matters here. And when people find out what really happened, Michael Patterson and your ex-wife are going to find out what it feels like to be pariahs. I looked around at these 4 men, my friends, my neighbors, people who'd known me for years, and realized I wasn't alone in this fight. What do you need from me? Red grinned. Everything you've got, every recording, every document, every piece of proof. We're going to make sure this story gets told right. And Jake? Steve added. Next time they try to claim you're dangerous or unstable, they're going to have to explain why half the town is backing you up. As I handed over copies of all my evidence, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not hope for reconciliation or forgiveness, but hope for justice, hope for revenge. They wanted to play dirty? Fine. But they'd picked the wrong man to mess with, and they were about to find out that in a small town, the truth has a way of spreading faster than lies. The war was just beginning. Within 48 hours, Red and his network had turned my evidence into a social media campaign that would have made a political operative proud. Danny's Instagram posts were getting hundreds of likes and shares. Tom's Facebook page had become a gathering place for people sharing their own stories about cheating spouses. Steve was quietly spreading the word through his police contacts that I was the victim, not the aggressor. But the real masterstroke came from Mrs. Greeley. She'd organized what she called a coffee clatch at her house on Thursday morning. 12 women, all between the ages of 60 and 85, all pillars of the Millfield community. They spent 3 hours going through my evidence and planning what they called a truth intervention. By Friday afternoon, There wasn't a person in Millfield who hadn't heard the real story of what Sabrina Morrison and Michael Patterson had done. I was at the hardware store picking up supplies when I ran into Patricia Williams from Henderson and Associates. "Mr. Morrison," she said, approaching me cautiously, "I wanted you to know that we've completed our internal investigation. And Michael Patterson's employment has been terminated, effective immediately." I felt a surge of satisfaction. "What about Sabrina?" "Mrs. Morrison wasn't directly employed by us, but her access to our building has been revoked. The relationship violated several company policies." "I appreciate you telling me." Patricia hesitated, then said, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry this happened to you. I've been married for 32 years and I can't imagine. Well, I'm just sorry." As she walked away, I realized that the tide of public opinion had completely turned. Sabrina and Michael had gone from being the sophisticated couple having an affair to being the villains who'd destroyed 2 families. But they weren't done fighting. That evening, I got a visit from Sheriff's Deputy Mike Collins. He was a good guy, someone I'd done work for in the past, and he looked uncomfortable as he stood on my front porch. "Jake, I've got to serve you with this." He handed me a legal document, a temporary restraining order, filed by Sabrina Morrison and Michael Patterson, claiming that I was harassing and threatening them. "You've got to be kidding me." "I'm sorry, man. I know this is bullshit, but I have to do my job. You're not supposed to come within 500 feet of either of them." I read through the document. According to their sworn statements, I had engaged in a pattern of stalking and harassment, including following them to their workplace, publicly humiliating them, and making threatening statements. "Mike, you know me. Do you really think I'm a threat to anyone?" "Of course not. But they've got a lawyer, and they've got statements from witnesses who say you confronted Michael downtown." "I confronted him with the truth. That's not harassment." "I know, Jake. But you need to be careful. Stay away from both of them until the hearing next week. Don't give them any ammunition." After Mike left, I called Maggie Chen. "I was expecting this," she said when I told her about the restraining order. "It's a classic move. They're trying to control the narrative by making you look like the aggressor." "Can they do that? Just lie under oath?" "They're not technically lying. You did confront Michael at his workplace. You did play recordings of their conversations in public. A judge might see that as harassment, even if your motives were justified. So what do? You follow the order to the letter, and you let me handle the counterattack." "What kind of counterattack?" "Well, if they want to play legal games, we can play legal games. I'm going to file a motion to dismiss based on their own misconduct, and I'm going to request a full accounting of all marital assets going back 3 years. "What does that mean?" "It means we're going to expose every lie, every hidden expense, every dollar they spent on their affair, and we're going to do it in open court where it becomes part of the public record." That weekend, I stayed home and tried to avoid thinking about Sabrina and Michael, but on Sunday morning, I got a call from Emma. "Dad, I need to talk to you." She came over an hour later, looking upset and confused. "What's wrong, kiddo?" "It's Mom. She's not doing well." "What do you mean?" "She's staying at some cheap motel because Michael's wife kicked him out too, and he doesn't have anywhere to go either. She lost her job, and she can't find another one because everyone in town knows what happened." I felt a brief moment of sympathy, then remembered the 2 years of lies and the emptied bank accounts. "That's unfortunate." "Dad, she's talking about leaving town, starting over somewhere else." "Maybe that's for the best." Emma stared at me. "You really don't care at all, do you? You really want to see her destroyed." "Emma, your mother made choices. Actions have consequences." "But this is too much. She's talking about hurting herself." That got my attention. "What do you mean?" "She says she can't live with the shame, that everyone hates her, that she's lost everything that mattered to her." I studied my daughter's face. "Emma, Is she really talking about hurting herself? Or is she trying to manipulate you into feeling sorry for her? I don't know. Maybe both. But what if she's serious? I thought about it for a long moment. The old Jake, the good husband Jake, would have dropped everything and rushed to help. But that Jake was gone. If she's really talking about hurting herself, she needs professional help, not her ex-husband. You're really not going to do anything? What would you like me to do, Emma? Drop the divorce proceedings? Pretend the last 2 years of lies never happened? Let her keep the money she stole? Emma didn't have an answer for that. After she left, I called Red. Sabrina's apparently having some kind of breakdown. Emma thinks she might hurt herself. You think she's serious? I think she's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. If she wants help, she can call a therapist. That's cold, Jake. Even for the new you. Is it? She spent 2 years planning to destroy my life. Now she's upset because her plan backfired? Red was quiet for a moment. Just be careful, man. If something happens to her, people are going to blame you. Let them blame me. I didn't force her to have an affair. But Red's warning stuck with me. If Sabrina really did hurt herself, the narrative would shift again. I'd go from being the wronged husband to being the vindictive ex who drove his wife to suicide. I couldn't let that happen. Monday morning, I called Dr. Sarah Peterson, a therapist I'd found online. Dr. Peterson, my name is Jake Morrison. I'm going through a divorce and my daughter is concerned that my ex-wife might be having thoughts of self-harm. I see. Are you looking to schedule an appointment for your ex-wife? I'm looking for advice. I don't want to contact her directly because of legal issues, but I'm concerned about her mental state. Dr. Peterson was professional and helpful. She gave me the number for a crisis hotline and suggested that I have Emma or another family member encourage Sabrina to seek help. Mr. Morrison, can I ask why you're not contacting your ex-wife directly? Because she's been lying about me to anyone who will listen, and I don't want to give her more ammunition to use against me. I understand, but if you're genuinely concerned about her safety, that might be more important than legal strategy. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at Sabrina's phone number in my contacts. I hadn't called her since the night I confronted her about the affair. Part of me wanted to reach out to make sure she was okay, but a bigger part of me remembered the audio recordings, the emptied bank accounts, the 2 years of lies. She'd made her choice. Now she had to live with the consequences. My phone rang. It was Maggie Chen. Jake, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Sabrina's lawyer filed a motion claiming that your social media campaign constitutes harassment and intimidation. They're asking for an expanded restraining order and monetary damages. Monetary damages? For what? Emotional distress, loss of income, damage to reputation. I almost laughed. She's suing me for damage to her reputation? After what she did? I know it sounds ridiculous, but we have to take it seriously. If a judge decides that your friend's social media posts were coordinated harassment, you could be in real trouble. What do I need to do? You need to tell everyone to stop posting about this. No more Facebook updates, no more Instagram stories, no more spreading information around town. I called Red and told him about Maggie's warning. He wasn't happy. So we're just supposed to shut up and let them control the story again? For now, yeah. That's bullshit, Jake. We finally got the truth out there, and now we're supposed to pretend it never happened? I don't like it either, but I can't afford to lose this case because of a technicality. That afternoon, I got an unexpected visitor. Lisa Patterson knocked on my door carrying a bottle of wine and a grim expression. "We need to talk," she said. I invited her in and opened the wine. Lisa looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Michael came by the house yesterday," she said, begging me to take him back. "What did you tell him?" "I told him to go to hell. But Jake, he's desperate, really desperate. He's living in his car because he can't afford a motel room. He lost his job, his reputation is destroyed, and he's facing a divorce that's going to leave him with nothing. Good. I agree. But desperate people do desperate things, and I'm worried he might try to hurt you. Hurt me how? I don't know. But he was talking crazy yesterday, saying this was all your fault, that you destroyed his life, that you need to pay for what you've done. I thought about the restraining order, about Sabrina's alleged breakdown, about the legal battles ahead. Lisa, what if we just walked away? What if we took our evidence and our stories and just moved on? Lisa stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Are you serious? I'm tired, Lisa. I'm tired of fighting, tired of being angry, tired of thinking about revenge all the time. Jake, these people destroyed our families. They lied, they cheated, they stole from us. And now you want to just let them get away with it? Maybe some fights aren't worth winning. Lisa stood up and paced to the window. You know what Michael said to me yesterday? He said that once this all blows over, once people forget, he and Sabrina are going to start over somewhere else. New town, new jobs, new life. Like none of this ever happened. I felt the anger rising again. He said that? He said they learned their lesson about being careless, but they didn't learn anything about being wrong. Lisa turned back to me. So no, Jake, we're not walking away. We're going to finish what we started, and we're going to make sure they never forget what they did to us. Looking at Lisa's determined face, I realized she was right. I'd come too far to quit now. Sabrina and Michael had declared war on my life, and I was going to finish that war on my terms. What do you have in mind? Lisa smiled, and for the first time since I'd met her, it was a genuinely happy expression. I'm thinking it's time for the final act. The plan Lisa and I developed was simple, elegant, and completely legal. We were going to give Millfield something it hadn't seen in years, a real, old-fashioned public scandal. The Millfield Community Center hosted a monthly town hall meeting where local residents could address city council members about community issues. The meetings were broadcast live on the local cable access channel and streamed online. Attendance was usually light, maybe 30 or 40 people, mostly retirees with complaints about potholes or noise ordinances. But Lisa had an idea to change that. What if word got out that someone was going to make a major announcement about corruption in the legal community? She suggested. Something that would affect everyone in town? How would word get out? Oh, I think Greeley and her coffee clatch could handle that, along with Red's gym buddies and Tom's Facebook followers. Within a week, anticipation was building all over Millfield. The rumor mill was working overtime, with speculation ranging from embezzlement to organized crime. The community center had to move the meeting to the high school auditorium to accommodate the expected crowd. Meanwhile, Maggie Chen was putting the finishing touches on our legal strategy. The financial investigation came back, she told me over the phone. Jake, this is worse than we thought. How much worse? Sabrina didn't just move money around in the last few months. She's been systematically hiding assets for almost 2 years. Separate bank accounts, investment accounts, even a safety deposit box you knew nothing about. How much money are we talking about? Close to $80,000. Money from your joint accounts, money from the sale of your father's tools after he died, even money from Emma's college fund. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. She stole from Emma's college fund? It gets worse. Some of that money was used to pay for the affair, hotel rooms, gifts for Michael, even a weekend trip to Chicago last year that she told you was a legal conference. Can we get it back? All of it, plus interest, plus penalties for dissipation of marital assets. Jake, when this comes out in court, Sabrina is going to be financially destroyed. Good. But even as I said it, I felt a nagging doubt. Was I going too far? Was the man I was becoming someone I could live with? The night before the town hall meeting, I got a call from Emma. Dad, please don't do this. Don't do what? Whatever you're planning for tomorrow night, Mom is barely holding it together as it is. If you humiliate her publicly again, I'm afraid of what she might do. Emma, I'm not planning to humiliate anyone. I'm planning to tell the truth. The truth can wait. Can't you just let the lawyers handle everything? I thought about the $80,000, about Emma's college fund, about 2 years of systematic deception. No, kiddo, the truth can't wait. Then I won't be there to watch you destroy what's left of our family. That's your choice. After Emma hung up, I sat in my living room wondering if I was making a terrible mistake. But then I remembered Michael's words to Lisa, that once this all blew over, he and Sabrina were going to start over like nothing had happened. That couldn't be allowed to happen. The high school auditorium was packed. I estimated at least 300 people, maybe more. The local cable access crew had set up multiple cameras, and I could see people live streaming on their phones. Red had saved me a seat in the front row. You ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. The meeting started with routine business: budget reports, zoning issues, a proposal for new stop signs on Elm Street. But everyone was waiting for the main event. Finally, Mayor Patricia Henderson called for new business. I stood up. Mayor Henderson, I'd like to address the community about a matter of public concern. Please state your name and address for the record. Jake Morrison, 1247 Maple Street. I walked to the podium and looked out at the crowd. I saw familiar faces, neighbors, co-workers, people I'd known for years. In the back, I spotted the unmistakable figure of Sabrina, sitting alone, looking pale and frightened. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here tonight to talk about trust, about what happens when the people we trust most betray that trust in the worst possible way. I pulled out a folder and opened it on the podium. 3 weeks ago, I discovered that my wife of 12 years was having an affair with her co-worker, Michael Patterson. But that's not why I'm here tonight. The auditorium was completely silent. I'm here because my investigation revealed that this wasn't just an affair. It was a carefully planned campaign to destroy my life and steal everything I'd worked for. I held up the first document. This is a bank statement showing that my wife opened a secret account 2 years ago and began systematically transferring money from our joint accounts. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This is a receipt from a jewelry store, showing that Michael Patterson used his family's credit card to buy my wife an $1,800 necklace. The murmurs grew louder. And this is a copy of an email my wife sent to her sister, dated 8 months ago, in which she wrote, and I quote, "Jake is so clueless about money. By the time I'm done, he'll be lucky to keep his truck." Someone in the crowd gasped. I looked toward the back and saw that Sabrina had stood up and was heading for the exit. Please don't leave, Sabrina. I think the community deserves to hear your side of the story. She stopped walking but didn't turn around. You see, folks, this isn't just about a cheating wife and her boyfriend. This is about what happens when people think they're smarter than everyone else, when they think they can lie and steal and manipulate without consequences. I held up another document. This is a statement from Emma Morrison's college fund. As of 2 years ago, there was $42,000 in that account. As of last month, there was less than $3,000. Where did that money go? I looked directly at Sabrina. Would you like to tell everyone where your daughter's college money went, Sabrina, or should I? Sabrina turned around, her face streaked with tears. You bastard! You absolute bastard! The money went to fund an affair, I continued. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, weekend getaways. My wife stole her own daughter's future to pay for her betrayal. The crowd was getting restless. I could hear angry voices, people calling out questions and comments. But here's the thing that really gets me, I said, raising my voice to be heard over the noise. Even after all of this came out, even after they were caught red-handed, they still tried to make me the villain. They filed a restraining order claiming I was harassing them. They spread rumors that I was unstable, that I was dangerous. I looked around the auditorium. How many of you heard that I was stalking my wife? That I was the problem in our marriage? Several hands went up. Well, let me tell you what really happened. I used the GPS on our family phone plan to track a car I was paying for. I listened to audio from a smartwatch I bought her for Christmas, and when I found evidence of adultery and financial fraud, I shared it with the appropriate people. I pulled out my phone. Would you like to hear what they really thought of all of you? What they said about this town, about the people who live here? I hit play on an audio file. Sabrina's voice filled the auditorium. God, I can't wait to get out of this pathetic little town. These people are so small-minded and boring. Jake fits right in with them. Then Michael's voice. Once we're together, we can move somewhere civilized. Maybe Chicago or Columbus. Somewhere with actual culture. The crowd's reaction was immediate and angry. People were standing up, shouting, pointing at Sabrina. She looked terrified. Mayor Henderson was banging her gavel, trying to restore order. Mr. Morrison, I think you've made your point. Actually, I'm not finished. I held up one final document. This is a copy of a text message my wife sent to Michael Patterson just yesterday. She wrote, "Don't worry about the town hall thing. Jake's just having a tantrum. Once this blows over, we can start fresh somewhere else. These idiots will forget all about us in 6 months." The auditorium erupted. People were on their feet, shouting, demanding answers. I saw Sabrina pushing through the crowd toward the exit, with several people blocking her way. So, here's my question for everyone here tonight, I said, my voice carrying over the chaos. Are you going to forget? Are you going to let these people move on like nothing happened? Or are you going to remember what they really think of you? Mayor Henderson had given up trying to restore order. The meeting was effectively over, dissolved into dozens of smaller confrontations and conversations. I stepped down from the podium and found myself surrounded by people wanting to shake my hand, pat my back, tell me they were sorry for what I'd been through. Red pushed through the crowd. Jesus, Jake, that was brutal. It was necessary. Sabrina looked like she was going to collapse. I looked toward the exit where Sabrina had disappeared. That's not my problem anymore. But even as I said it, I felt a hollow sensation in my chest. I'd won, completely and decisively. Sabrina and Michael were finished in this town, their reputations destroyed beyond repair. Everyone knew the truth now. So why didn't I feel better? Lisa appeared at my elbow. That was perfect, Jake. Absolutely perfect. Where's Michael? He wasn't here. Probably too much of a coward to show his face. As the crowd began to disperse, I noticed several people taking pictures and videos with their phones. By tomorrow morning, clips from tonight's meeting would be all over social media. The story would spread far beyond Millfield. Mrs. Greeley made her way over to me. Jake, dear, that was very brave of you. Thank you, Mrs. Greeley. That poor girl, though. She looked absolutely devastated. She made her choices. Yes, she did, but still. Mrs. Greeley patted my arm. Just remember, dear, revenge is a dish best served cold, but it can leave a bitter taste in your mouth if you're not careful. As I drove home that night, I thought about Mrs. Greeley's words. I'd gotten everything I wanted: justice, vindication, revenge. Sabrina and Michael were ruined. The truth was out. My reputation was restored. But sitting alone in my empty house, I didn't feel like celebrating. I felt tired, hollow, like I'd won a war but lost something important in the process. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. I watched the live stream. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, I'm not sure what I am anymore. She didn't respond. The next morning, I woke up to find my front yard full of reporters. The story had gone viral overnight. Husband exposes cheating wife at town hall meeting was trending on social media. I had requests for interviews from local TV stations, newspapers, even a couple of national outlets. I ignored them all. Maggie Chen called around noon. Jake, have you seen the news coverage? I'm trying to avoid it. Well, You should know that Sabrina's lawyer called this morning. They want to settle. Settle for what? Everything. Full return of all marital assets, including the money from Emma's college fund. No alimony. She keeps her car and personal belongings. That's it. What about Michael? Lisa's lawyer says he's agreed to the same terms in their divorce. He's also apparently leaving town. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt empty. Jake, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Accept the settlement. Are you sure? We could probably get more if we go to court. I'm sure. I just want this to be over. That afternoon, I got an unexpected visitor. Emma knocked on my door, looking older than her 17 years. Can I come in? We sat in the living room where I'd confronted Sabrina 3 weeks earlier. It felt like a lifetime ago. Mom's in the hospital, Emma said quietly. My stomach dropped. What happened? She took some pills last night. After the town hall meeting, her sister found her and called an ambulance. I closed my eyes. Is she okay? She's alive. The doctors say she'll be fine physically. Emma, I'm sorry. I never wanted... Yes, you did. Emma's voice was steady but cold. You wanted to destroy her and you did. Congratulations, Dad. You won. That's not fair. Isn't it? You stood up in front of the whole town and humiliated her. You made sure everyone knew every detail of what she did wrong. You turned her into a pariah. She did that to herself. Maybe. But you made sure she paid for it in the most public way possible. Emma stood up to leave. The doctors say she needs psychiatric help, long-term treatment. That costs money, Dad. Money she doesn't have anymore because you took everything. The settlement gives her enough to survive, not enough to get the help she needs. After Emma left, I sat alone in my living room thinking about what I'd become. 3 weeks ago, I'd been Jake Morrison, the good husband, the reliable guy who fixed things and kept his mouth shut. Now I was Jake Morrison, the man who'd destroyed his wife so completely that she'd tried to kill herself. I'd gotten my revenge. I'd exposed the truth. I'd won. But victory felt a lot like defeat. My phone rang. It was Red. Jake, you need to turn on Channel 8. I found the remote and switched to the local news. There was footage from last night's town hall meeting, with my voice playing over images of the packed auditorium. In a dramatic confrontation that has captivated social media, the reporter was saying, a Millfield man exposed his wife's affair and financial deception in front of hundreds of community members. Then the story cut to an interview with someone I didn't recognize, a woman in a business suit standing outside what looked like a law office. This kind of public shaming is deeply troubling, she was saying. While Mr. Morrison may have been wronged by his wife, his response was disproportionate and potentially dangerous. We're seeing the real-world consequences of what happens when private matters become public spectacles. The reporter's voice returned. The woman at the center of the controversy, Sabrina Morrison, was hospitalized last night after what sources describe as a suicide attempt. I turned off the TV. That evening I drove to the hospital. I didn't go inside. I just sat in the parking lot, looking up at the windows, wondering which room she was in. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Michael. I hope you're satisfied. You destroyed an innocent woman. I typed back. She wasn't innocent. And neither were you. She's in the hospital because of what you did. She's in the hospital because she couldn't live with the consequences of her own actions. You're a monster, Jake Morrison. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed, maybe I am, but I'm a monster you created. I drove home and opened a beer, then another, and another. Around midnight I called Red. Jake, what's wrong? Am I a monster, Red? What are you talking about? Sabrina's in the hospital. Emma hates me. Half the town thinks I went too far. Maybe I am a monster. Red was quiet for a moment. Jake, do you remember what you told me the night you found out about the affair? No. You said you felt like you'd been living with a stranger for 2 years, like the woman you married never really existed. Yeah, I remember. Well, maybe the man she married never really existed either. Maybe the real Jake Morrison is the guy who fights back when someone tries to destroy him. Even if fighting back destroys them first? Especially then. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen until dawn, thinking about monsters and victims, about justice and revenge, about the man I used to be and the man I'd become. When the sun came up, I made a decision. I called Maggie Chen. Maggie, I want to add something to the settlement. What kind of something? I want to pay for Sabrina's medical treatment, whatever she needs to get better. Jake, are you sure about this? After everything she put you through? I'm sure, but I want it to be anonymous. She doesn't need to know it came from me. That's very generous. No, it's not. It's just necessary. After I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. I wasn't the good guy in this story, but I wasn't the monster either. I was just a man who'd been pushed too far and pushed back harder than he should have. Sabrina would get the help she needed. Emma would get her college money back. Michael would start over somewhere else, hopefully having learned something about the cost of betrayal. And I would live with what I'd done and what I'd become. 3 months later, I got a letter with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 2 words written in Sabrina's handwriting. Thank you. I never saw her again.